people like Dr. Shadi Hekmat Nasser, who wrote a publication who says the transmission of the variant readings of the Quran, that was written in 2012, explains that those qira'at are not, again, I will say not all based on dialect, but reflect genuine differences in transmitted content, which is why scholars like Dr. Yasir Qadhi have openly admitted that these variations cannot all be harmonized with a simple perfect preservation narrative.
So you didn't prove your point, and you just pasted a line by, like, I don't know, some Islamophobic website. I'm looking at the Quran. I don't see this. Right? I have the PDF.
Khan. Listen. I'm not gonna sit here and listen to your garbage about Islamophobic websites. All right. I just told you to go to QuranX. Just because you don't have the ability to find it is not my problem.
If you match it with the San'ama manuscript, it matches like exactly. There's a video and there's a document I can share it with you.
Okay.
Where it shows letter by letter how like identical it is. Hold on a minute.
Okay. So just for full transparency, Khan, whatever you share, whatever you say, I'm gonna write down your points and I'm gonna address all of them in my rebuttal. So I don't want anybody telling me later on, oh, I'm talking too much or I address too many things. Just letting you know. So you said the Sana manuscript, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So then how do you explain all the differences that we have here then? How do you explain the differences between the Hafs Quran? For example, in the Hafs Quran where Allah says to Muhammad, you were amazed while they mocked. But in the Al-Susi and the Al-Hamsa Qurans, it says, Allah says, I was amazed while they mocked. So the question is, who was amazed? Was Allah or Muhammad? Was Allah telling Muhammad that he was amazed while they mocked? Or is it the correct one in the Al-Susi or the Al-Hamsa Qurans where it says, I was amazed, where Allah is just talking in the first person, right? It's a very simple question. Was Muhammad surprised or was Allah surprised? And we can't say that it's dialectical or because it's literally a total change of the speaker and meaning. So how do you explain Surah 37:12?
Well, first you have to provide me sources because I never heard about these like two random books, right? I know Hafs and Warsh, those are the two that's been distributed. Some in Africa, like Morocco, Algeria. Those I think follow Warsh version and regular. Everybody else follows.
Right, but you have to. It should be disturbing to you when you say that. You've never heard. I've told you what they are. They are the Qurans. The versions of these Qurans are the Al-Susi and the Al-Hamsa, where it says, I was amazed while they mocked. But the Hafs, which you were speaking of, says, you were amazed while they mocked. So again, it goes back to the foundational question of, if the Quran is perfectly preserved, then why are there different Qurans?
Well, I mean, you can, for example, somebody can write, like Mormons can write their own version of Quran. Doesn't mean it's not preserved. It's just that they modified something in it, but what all the Muslims follow, none of them actually would acknowledge that as a Quran. So you have to first establish that, well, this percentage of Muslims follow this Quran, then we can, you can back up that claim. If there's a random book floating around, then, somebody...
Well, that's not but this isn't a random book. This is a Quran that's used by millions of people.
Yeah, which million people? Like, which country used this words you're talking about?
Whichever regions are using the Al-Susi and the Al-Hamsa.
Yeah. Like,
have you ever heard of those Qurans?
No.
You've never heard of them?
I know Warsh and Hafs are the two ones that are, what we read.
Okay. So here's the thing. And I understand what you're trying to say. You're basically talking about heretical people, right? But what it comes down to, ladies and gentlemen, is the fact that my brother Khan is saying that the Quran is perfectly preserved, right? And you would say that the Quran is preserved letter for letter, right? Perfectly, since the Sana'a manuscript, right?
Letter for letter, the Qur'an, like the how you recite it was preserved,
right? And that's why they
can have printing errors, and it can go down the history, because Quran is on the Qira'at, like how you recite it.
So again, that's blatantly false, and that's exactly what this video is for, right? They talk about that because this is exactly what Muslims try to do, ladies and gentlemen. They try to hide behind diacritical marks and behind accents and recitations, and I understand that that's what people are taught to say, but that's exactly what Jay and Doc in this video were saying is a complete fabrication, right? And to say nothing of the fact that just the one description that I gave you alone, it's not even about pronunciation. It affects doctrine, right? So when you're saying that it's about pronunciation, well, depending on the Quran you have, this isn't even just it's not even a pronunciation thing. This is a doctrinal thing. It is a textual thing, right? Now, Warsh is used throughout North Africa, right? Those readings are preserved in the Qira'at, and every qualified scholar knows that, and I think you would agree with it, right? But when someone says millions of Muslims don't follow those Qurans, you're just unaware of global reality, because the Cairo edition of the Hafs, which is the Quran from 1924, was actually a political standardization of the Quran. It wasn't some miracle of preservation. Here's the thing. If the Quran is perfectly preserved, you shouldn't have 7 or 10 accepted readings that literally change meaning in the speaker, right? That's not preservation. That's literal canonization of variants, of textual variants. And if you want more sources, you can look at Dr. Shadi Nasser and Dr. Yasir Qadhi's admission of the holes in the narrative of the preservation. And I will put those both in here because you asked for sources.
So the Yasir Qadhi, I watched his recent video. He clarified his point, the holes in the narrative. He was talking about the, you can watch his recent video. He made the clarification video about what he meant by, and we don't really take by like what somebody say in more history. People can make claims like Bart Ehrman used to be a Christian. Now he's an atheist. So you guys won't take his word for what he says about the Bible, right? So just because
well, that's actually blatantly false. We do take his word for what he says about the Bible, because what Bart Ehrman says about the Bible, what Bart Ehrman says about the Bible is what happens is Muslims will take what he says about the Bible and they'll take one line and they'll leave out actually everything else that he said about the Bible, because Bart Ehrman doesn't claim that the Bible has been corrupted. Bart Ehrman talks about copyist errors. Bart Ehrman talks.
Can I mention from his book of the line that he was talking about?
Yeah,
he was even talking about that Jesus was never God, like according to the Bible. It was later addition. Give me one moment. Let me look up his book. I remember reading that.
Which book are you going to?
His hold on a minute. His book, Jesus and God.
Okay, so while he's looking for that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to let too much airtime die out. So let's talk about what Khan tried to insinuate about Yasir Qadhi's phrase in the holes in the narrative. Right now, Yasir Qadhi wasn't talking about some minor historical confusion, ladies and gentlemen. Okay.
Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah. Are you ready?
Are you there? Are you ready?
Yeah.
You're talking about Bart Ehrman. You're saying that Bart Ehrman said this.
Yes.
Okay.
Misquoting Jesus. Yeah. So, the original, in spite if we don't have the original words, we have only error written copies, and the vast majority of these are century removed from the original. According to his page number 7, Bart Ehrman wrote about in book Misquoting Jesus.
Okay, so I'm gonna address that, and then we're gonna get back to the actual topic at hand. Okay, so Bart Ehrman, I know exactly what you're talking about because I've read the book where it says on page 7 that we don't have the original manuscripts of the New Testament and only copies of copies. But what Muslims, like my brother, we have this problem every single time.
Just quote it properly. Add a written copy.
Okay, I am quoting it from the actual book. All right. Yeah, so
I'm quoting from it.
Okay, so am I. Okay, so I don't know what you're looking at, and I can't even see your camera. So while I am rebuttaling, stop talking over me. All right, that's not how this conversation works. All right. Now, what Muslims like my brother Khan will conveniently ignore is what he also says later in that same book. So let's look at page 252, where he says the essential Christian beliefs are not affected by textual variants in the manuscript tradition, which I knew you were going to look over. It doesn't surprise me. That is textbook deception from a Muslim, right? And that completely dismantles the idea that doctrinal corruption occurred, which is why I tried to tell you, stop bringing up Bart Ehrman, because he doesn't agree with you. And what he doesn't, when he doesn't, you ignore it, right? Bart Ehrman's critique is about textual transmission, not theological invention. And he even admits on multiple occasions that the New Testament manuscripts, despite variations, convey the same core message. Jesus was crucified, claimed divinity, rose again, and salvation is through him. That's still in every manuscript, variant or not, to say nothing of the fact. Yeah, I see it. So now what you got to do is you got to go to page 252 and address what I said.
Yeah, so basically, so that's why I brought this point.
That you brought the point because you're doing exactly what people always do. I asked you about the differences in the Quran, and you're talking about the Bible, and then you're misquoting Bart Ehrman, and you're quoting on page 7 while ignoring page 252, which is intellectually dishonest. So I'm going to wrangle you back in. I'm going to wrangle you back in because this is not what we're talking about.
Why I brought, did I even mention why am I mentioning Bart
Ehrman? You can mention it, but again, this is my show, and I'm giving you a topic, and you continue to want to talk about the Bible, because anytime you guys are challenged on the Quran, you want to talk about the Bible, and then you get debunked, and then you stop, because if you have to talk about the Quran, then you're going to get exposed, and that's not what you want.
You pause. You're talking too much, but not letting me explain why I brought
Go ahead.
So basically, the point you're saying that it doesn't alter the main message. We believe the same for Quran, even though Hafs and Warsh have little dialectical, the recitation has a little difference, but it doesn't, and none of that actually alters the practice. They all believe in Tawheed, they all believe in prayers, they all believe in Zakat, there's nothing, it's like you said, it's about the story. One word sounds similar to another, might have been misprinted, but that's about it.
So then there's no perfect preservation. Thank you for admitting that. Now I'm going to
perfectly preserve. If you read it, right, it sounds, so you can listen to it. For example, if I say beer, and it could be, somebody may pronounce it bear, and it will be like the actual animal bear.
Right. I know, but Khan, you're not even understanding how hypocritical you're sounding right now. I asked you if the Quran is perfectly preserved, letter for letter. You said yes. And now you're trying to make excuses. So here, just stop. Let's be absolutely clear here, okay? Yes. Because these are not just dialectical differences or misprints. We're talking about entirely different words with different meanings, and they're preserved in official qira'at. So, for example, in Surah 2:184, Hafs says a ransom of feeding a poor person, Miskeen, while in the Qira'ah of Ibn Kathir, it says poor people, Masakeen, right? Those don't sound the same. They're not even Roman. Those, even for a non-Arabic speaker, you'd have to be an idiot to say that Miskeen and Masakeen sound the same, that you can mispronounce those to be one or the other. One is singular, the other is plural, and that changes a complete legal obligation about missing fasts. So if you miss a fast, this is what you have to do. One is telling you to feed a person, the other one is telling you to feed multiple people, right? So is it one person or is it multiple? That is fiqh. It is Islamic law, and it affects practices, right? You can also take Surah 3:146, where the Hafs says many prophets fought, while in the Warsh it says many prophets were killed. Now, mind you, I don't want to hear the excuse about, well, you know what, they fought to the death, because that's not what it says. It says that the prophets lost their lives in one, and in the other one it says purely that they fought and mentioned nothing about their death. That is not about pronunciation. It is a change from fighting to dying. Those are two completely different events. And even Islamic scholars admit, like Dr. Shadi Hekmat Nasser, in the transmission of the variant readings of the Quran, which is what the publication is called, explains that these qira'at reflect early textual fluidity and not just dialects. So no matter what you try to say, it's just that you're saying it's not just one word or it sounds familiar. No, that doesn't work. These are canonical, meaning approved versions with different content, affecting meaning, affecting theology, and sometimes even practice.
Take a little break. Can you show me, because when you pronounce it, I could not tell what the Arabic you said is not Arabic at all. So can you show me what you're talking about? What is the difference? Because like I said, it doesn't sound like Arabic to me at all, but you just say.
Well, then you can, I gave you the verse, right? Surah 2:184, look up look up in Surah 2184, it says a ransom feeding a poor person, right? In the Qira'ah of Ibn Kathir, it says poor people. Singular versus plural.
Yeah, people, you can feed one or you can feed many. It doesn't, so you have to read, it's the feeding of a poor person. It's in Hafs recitation, the standard in most of the world. Upon those who are able to fast, of feeding a poor person, right? It doesn't really change.
Khan, forgive me. But if we were having this conversation and it was about the Bible and it was about...
I have both in front of me. So, okay, Hafs says, and upon those who are able to fast, a ransom, a substitute of feeding a poor person. This is the Hafs version. Now the word is, and upon those who are able to fast, a ransom of feeding a poor person. I don't really see the,
well, I mean, I will sit there. I'll sit there and I will take your word for it that you read supposedly.
I have it in online. Hold on, I can send you a copy of the chat.
Okay, yeah, because here's the thing. As a matter of fact, I'm going to send you for my debate briefs, right? Because Surah 2184 in the Hafs reading, here, I'm going to give you the Arabic, right? I'm going to give you the Arabic. I'm going to copy and paste it for you. And I'm going to paste it in my own chat as well. But Ibn Kathir and Al-Dudi reading, it says a ransom feeding poor people. Completely different. So again, you can say, oh, you can feed a person or people, but that's just a cop-out. That's not explaining why it says two different things. A perfectly preserved letter for letter. You agreed, letter for letter. So if it's letter for letter, then why? Earlier you said that people were heretical, that they were reading, they can write their own thing. How can they read their own thing? Your guys' Quran says that Allah's word cannot be changed. So if Allah's word cannot be changed, then where are there different floating Qurans out there? I don't get it.
They both have Miskeen. Because it, and also it just means, a person. They both, I think
one says Miskeen and the other one says Masakeen. So the spelling in English for one,
exact word. I have both, like,
brother. Hold on, hi baby.
Yeah.
Khan, I'm reading it to you. I just pasted it to you. One is spelled. Stop, dude. Stop. You're not making any wiggle room here. It's two different words. One in English is spelled Miskin. The other one is spelled Masakin. Miskeen, Masakeen.
Told me, but can you provide me like a link to actual page? Because this is not what I have.
I just gave it to you.
Well, this is not a link. You're just copying pasting from some Islamic.
Then go to QuranX.com where I got it. And look for yourself and look at the different versions. QuranX.com.
Giving me the link instead. Well, why are you just posting some random? Hold on a minute. Let me QuranX.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, while he's doing that, I'm going to explain again the difference between Miskeen, which is singular, and Masakeen, which is plural. Now, it's not a misprint, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry. It's not a misprint and it's not a pronunciation issue. It is a completely different word with a different quantity. This lie that Muslims try to push on you that, well, it's a person and one says people, so it doesn't really matter. You guys are the one that said perfect preservation, letter for letter, right? But yet there is a different word in two different Qurans with a different quantity and it changes the legal ruling. That's the part that Khan doesn't want you to look at. If you follow the Hafs, you owe food to one poor person, one. If you follow Ibn Kathir, you owe it to multiple people. And how many people even at that? Doesn't say. Now, that's not just dialectical, ladies and gentlemen. That's Islamic jurisprudence affected directly by variant readings. And this is in documented scholarly sources. So again, Dr. Shadi Hekmat Nasser, the transmission of the variant readings of the Quran in Braille in 2012, explains that these qira'at are not all based on dialect, but reflect genuine differences in transmitted content. That's why some scholars like Dr. Yasir Qadhi have openly admitted that these variations cannot all be harmonized with a simple perfect preservation narrative. Now, Khan, I'm confused because if you're saying
a website where you found this, because I can't even find this Hafs Quran.
Sure, that's fine. Yeah, I know. But here's my question for you, right? I will happily provide, and all my stuff, Khan, all my stuff is in Discord. You want the stuff, you want the debate briefs, you want the sources, go into the Discord and get it. All right. Here's the problem. Again, even if we were taking your word for it, where you're saying, oh, I see it and it's still the same thing, which is clearly not the case, right? You have documented scholars who are not, they don't agree with me theologically, they agree with you, right? They are followers of your prophet, they are followers of Allah. People like Dr. Shadi Hekmat Nasser, who wrote a publication who says the transmission of the variant readings of the Quran, that was written in 2012, explains that those qira'at are not, again, I will say not all based on dialect, but reflect genuine differences in transmitted content, which is why scholars like Dr. Yasir Qadhi have openly admitted that these variations cannot all be harmonized with a simple perfect preservation narrative.
You didn't prove your point, and you just pasted a line by, like, I don't know, some Islamophobic website. I'm looking at the Quran. I don't see this. Right? I have the PDF.
Khan. Listen. I'm not gonna sit here and listen to your garbage about Islamophobic websites. All right. I just told you to go to QuranX. Just because you don't have the ability to find it is not my problem.
It doesn't have both of the different versions.
Yeah. So you started off by saying the Quran is perfectly preserved, and you agreed that it's preserved letter for letter. And now when we're giving you different letters and different words and different legal rulings, you're saying, well, it can still mean the same. Is it the same or is it not the same?
I did not say that it's letter to letter in the written form is preserved. I did not say go back. I don't know. I think you're talking to somebody else, and
I'm talking to you. You're the only one here. And on top of that, again, your own scholars explain that all the qira'at are not based on dialect, but reflect genuine differences in transmitted content.
184.
Hello?
Yeah, what?
Now, are you deaf now, or are you just blind and deaf? Which one is it?
Bro, I'm looking because unlike you, I go by the evidence. I don't really take your word.
Yeah, I don't care what you're taking. You haven't addressed a single argument. I'm telling you your own scholars, and I'm giving you the name of the scholar, and I'm giving you the illustration, the publication, and I'm telling you that scholar, and that's why Yasir Qadhi have openly admitted that variations cannot all be harmonized with a simple perfect preservation narrative.
I don't care. I'm trying to like see the point you made about the Masakeen, right? Let me see. Like I'm reading, I don't see it. So let me confirm.
Well then, brother, learn. You know what? Here, do me a favor then. Learn how to read and come back when you do. You're gonna tell me that I'm not giving you evidence. I'm reading it to you from the different Qurans. I told you, go to QuranX.com and look at the different versions of it. Different versions. They're not even translations. They're literal versions that give different meanings. A poor person, Miskeen, Miskeen. Poor people translates to Masakeen. Bro wants to come in here talking about, well, I don't give a damn what you believe. Don't ever make the mistake of thinking that I care what you guys believe. My question to you is, what can you prove? Again, can you defend Islam? Bro came in here, said that the Quran's perfectly preserved, but then said that the message has not been... He tried to compare the Bible's different copyist errors to his completely different textual variants of the Quran. Absolutely ridiculous. This is your mind on Islam, ladies and gentlemen. This is your mind on Islam.